A very good morning to all the students of class 11th political science. And students, we were doing the topic that is rights in the Indian constitution, which is a part of second chapter of your book. But according to the new revised syllabus, this topic has been merged with chapter number 1. So we were doing this topic, that is Constitution of India, fundamental rights. So we were explaining you something important regarding fundamental rights, as from the very junior classes you know and you have studied about those important 6 fundamental rights which every citizen of India is guaranteed by the constitution. Okay, but here as a student of political science, now we need to know the roots of these important rights. So in detail we were discussing each and every dimension of these important fundamental rights. So we had already done this right to equality, and out of these 6 right to equality we had already done, and these are some of the important I would say components, elements or subtopics which we had discussed in detail with the help of various examples and various situations and circumstances I had given you to understand this complete understanding of this right to equality. Although it is very small to speak right to equality, but it is having so many components and various dimensions to understand equality. Okay, then we had studied our very important right, I would say, right to freedom. Okay, and this is also called a cluster of rights, I would say, and there is a particular question also in your book which I have given you, why right to freedom is also called as the cluster of rights, because there are so many rights which are incorporated within this particular fundamental right, that is right to freedom. If you will read this, so all this we had discussed in detail. Okay, and in the last video, that was a video lecture number 7 of this chapter, in this we had discussed something regarding right against exploitation. So these are some of the 2 components and elements of this right against exploitation which I had discussed. And in the same video we had also gone through right to freedom of religion, and under this also we had seen so many dimensions and concepts relating to the right to freedom of religion, because in the junior classes we just used to know the definitions and the meaning, but here we'll need to know all the dimensions which are incorporated within these fundamental rights, because as a citizen and as a student of political science in class 11th, you must know all the details of the fundamental rights, the relevance, significance and also their roots. So today I will be ending up this topic, that is fundamental rights of the Indian citizens, which has been given by the and guaranteed by the Constitution of India. I will be finishing it with cultural and educational rights, which I will be discussing today, and right to constitutional remedies. This is one of the most important fundamental right, and it is very different if we compare it with the other rights. Okay, because I'm not telling you now, and when I will be discussing, I shall be telling you why this right is the most important right if we compare it with the other rights. Okay, so this is part 11 of this chapter, sorry, part 8th of this chapter, and the topic we are continuing with is the fundamental rights, and this is the 5th right, second last, cultural and educational right. So let's understand what do we understand by cultural and educational rights. When we talk of the Indian society, as I told you, India is a land of diversity. Okay, there is so much of diversity in terms of caste, color, language, religion, their various professions, in terms of landscape. Even we have so much of diversity, but here we will mostly focus on caste, color, religion, different castes. So there is lot of diversity. That is why it's written, the image of diversity comes before our mind. So whenever we talk about our society, automatically there will be image in our mind which will reflect a lot of diversity in India. India is not made up of a monolithic society. Monolithic society, where a society where people follow a particular religion, a particular caste, a particular culture. But in India, this is not the case. Here we have a lot of diversity in our society. In such a society that is full of diversity, when I'm talking about the word diversity, automatically it should come to your mind. Diversity means people living in a society with different religions, different customs, okay, different religions, caste, languages. Okay, so there would be social sections that are small in number. So when there is so much of diversity, so there will be some social sections, some communities which will be smaller in number, as compared to the other groups. It means we are talking about the majority and the minority. Okay, maybe Hindus are more, Muslims are less, Christians are even more less, Sikhs are equal. So in this way you will find a differentiation between the various communities and groups, not only in terms of culture or religion, in terms of language also. If a group is in minority, will it have to be adopt a culture of the majority? So now they are putting up a question. If this would have been a case in India, that every minority group or a smaller or a weaker group has to follow the culture, caste, color and the customs of a majority group, in this automatically there would have not been so much of diversity in India. Still there is prevailing diversity in India because constitution has given the freedom to each and every community, to every cultural group, where they can protect, develop and grow their particular cultural culture. Okay, that is why they have put a question here. In a group in minority, will it have adopt the culture of the majority? Our constitution believes that, because our constitution believes that diversity is our strength. India's strength is its diversity. Therefore, one of the fundamental rights, that is why to preserve this diversity, it means to protect this diversity and to protect the minority, that the majority should not suppress the minorities. For that, a particular fundamental right has been incorporated and added to the fundamental rights, is a right for the minorities to maintain their culture, so that the minorities, the people less in number, maybe these minorities belong to a particular religion, maybe particular community or maybe particular caste, any minority it can be, so that they have the right to protect and develop their culture. That is why this right has been added to the fundamental rights, cultural and educational right, where every minority has the right to maintain and develop their culture. This minority status is not dependent only. So as I discussed, that minority does not depend only upon the religion. It can be a linguistic minority or it can be a cultural minority. Minority means less number of population as compared to the majority community. So when we talk about the minority does not only mean religious minority. Minority also means a linguistic minority or a cultural minority are also included in the provision. Minorities are group. So if I tell you to define minority, so here is the definition of minorities. Minorities are the group or the people, a group of people who have the common language or a common religion, and in a particular part, or people having a common language or a common religion, and they are living in a particular part of our country or in the country as a whole. They are outnumbered by some of the social sections. Outnumbered means as compared to the other social sections or other communities, this number is very less. If the number is less, it does not mean we do not give them privileges, we do not entertain them, we do not provide them the fundamental rights, or we try to suppress them or dominate them, so that no one is like exploiting these minority groups. This right has been added to protect the minorities. Such communities have a cultural language and a script of their own and have the right to conserve and develop this. As these minority groups have their culture, own language, own script, so they should have the right to conserve and develop these groups. In additional to this right, the right we are talking about, cultural and educational rights, some more details are here. All minorities, religious or linguistic, when whatever type of minorities, can set up their own education institutions. So all the minority groups have the right that they can set up their educational institutions. By doing so, they can preserve. By doing that, they will preserve and develop their own culture, because they are in minority, they are very less in number. To preserve their culture, they can have their education institutions in place. The government will not, while granting aid to education institutions, discriminate. When government provides and allocates various funds for the development of various educational institutions, at the same time these education institutions relating to the minorities, they will also be will be equally supported by the government. So they will not be discriminated on the basis of their linguistic groups or their cultural groups, or because of their minority status. So discriminate against any education institutions on the basis of their under management of minority community. So here we are trying to understand that each and every community is important and equal for the government, and the government is trying to protect every community, every part of the society, and every minority, every religion, every caste, because all are equal in front of the law, and constitution gives the protection to these minorities through this fundamental right, that is right to cultural and educational right. Now coming to the last fundamental right, this is the sixth fundamental right which we will discuss, and as I told you in the beginning of the lecture, this is one of the most important fundamental rights, right to constitutional remedies. So we'll try to understand the meaning. One would agree that our constitution contains a very impressive list of fundamental rights, but merely writing down a list of rights is not enough. Okay, everyone would agree that okay, our constitution has a very good system of fundamental rights where everyone has been given some important basic rights, some civic rights. Okay, but only writing down these rights is not enough. That we have listed it down, we have said that okay, these are the rights of the citizen. What becomes important here is the responsibility of the government and the constitution, that how these rights are implemented. Are they accessible to each and every citizen? Are they being provided to every section of the society? And make sure that no one is being discriminated on the basis of caste, color, language, because every citizen has an equal right and equal access to these fundamental rights. So now what becomes important here is there has to be a way through which they could be raised in practice. So there should be a proper method and mechanism through which we can bring these fundamental rights into a proper practice, and these fundamental rights should be defended against any attack of the on these rights. If there is any attack on these rights, those should be defended and protected, and for that complete mechanism has been already framed by the constitution, that how citizens will enjoy these fundamental rights, and in case any right is being violated of any citizen by anyone, and that how he can defend himself and what is the criteria for that. All the things have been mentioned, so we'll discuss that. So yes, moving forward now, I will explain it to you now. Right to constitutional remedies is the means through which this is to be achieved. It means right to constitutional remedy, this is the tool, I would say, which the constitution has put up for the citizens, that if anyone violates their rights or if anybody exploits them through their basic rights, then they can be protected and defended by this right to constitutional remedies. It means through which this is to be achieved. Dr. Ambedkar considered the right to constitutional remedies as the heart and soul of the constitution. This is very important. You have to remember, there can be a 1 mark question who said that constitution, the right to constitutional remedies is the heart and soul of the constitution. So you will have to answer Dr. Ambedkar, or in the question can be other way around also. Okay, it is so because this right gives a citizen. So now it's the explanation. This right, that is a right to constitutional remedies, it gives the right to the citizen to approach to the High Court or the Supreme Court to get any of the fundamental rights. If our rights are violated by someone, we have the right to approach High Court or the Supreme Court to get our fundamental rights restored in case of their violation. If anyone is violating your fundamental rights, we have the right to move to the High Court or the Supreme Court. Okay. And what does the role of the Supreme Court or the High Court is? The Supreme Court and the High Court can issue orders and give directives to the government. Directly, the Supreme Court and the High Court will give orders or the commands or the directions to the government to enforce for the enforcement of the rights in a proper manner for a particular person or a particular community, if they think that really the fundamental rights of the people are being violated. So they can, the role of the court becomes here that they command and they give orders to the government for the proper enforcement of the rights. And moving forward, when we are talking about the enforcement or when we are talking about the implementation of the proper rights, so that there is no exploitation of any person, so the courts can issue various special orders. So courts have the right where they give various special orders, and these special orders are known as writs. So there can be a definition. What do you understand by writs? So writs are the special orders given by the courts to the government for the proper enforcement of the right. Okay, so that there is no violation of rights of any person or any community, any minority, maybe child, woman, anyone. So as I told you, the court can issue various special orders known as writs. So there are few writs, and this is a very important topic from the point of view of your class 11th. This is a new thing which you have to learn. These are the writs or the orders or the commands which are given by the courts to the government for the proper enforcement. So you should remember these 1 2 3 4 5 writs, and what are the meaning of these writs. Like for the first one, habeas corpus. If there can be a question, what do you understand by habeas corpus? So you must know it is a writs or a special order given by the court to the government for the enforcement of the rights. So the meaning of habeas corpus is, a right of habeas corpus means that the court orders that the arrested person should be presented before it. It can also order to set free an arrested person if the manner or the ground of arrest are not lawful or satisfactory. So you must be knowing this. Whenever any person is arrested on any charge, he should be presented before the judiciary within the 24 hours. And if the judiciary feels or the magistrate feels that a arrested person should not be arrested, and in the manner he has been arrested or for the crime he has been arrested he is not guilty of, he can be set free. So this is a writ given by the courts. Another one is mandamus. This writ is issued when the court finds that a particular office holder is not doing legal duties. Whenever any official person, when he gets some portfolio or some position in the government offices, but he is not doing his legal duties properly, thereby infringing on the rights of an individual, and he is infringing the rights of the other individuals, in that manner this writ is issued by the court. Next one is prohibition. This writ is issued by a high court or a supreme court when a lower court has considered a case going beyond its jurisdiction. Okay, so always there is a jurisdiction or the areas till where the power of a particular court is we would say applicable. So if any small court finds that there is a situation or there is a case which is going beyond its jurisdiction, it can shift the thing to the high court or the supreme court. Then we talk about quo warranto. If the court finds that a person is holding office but is not entitled to hold that office, if any person is holding any portfolio in the office but he is not eligible or he is not entitled to hold that particular position, in that case also a writ will be ordered, and its name is quo warranto, and this issues a writ quo warranto and restricts that person from acting as an office holder. And the last writ is certiorari terri. Under this writ, the court orders a lower court to another authority to transfer a matter pending before it to the higher authority. Okay, so directly the court will send an authority or send an order to transfer a particular matter or particular case, I would say, which is pending in the lower courts. It means that lower court should transfer that system or that matter to the higher authority or the higher court. Apart from the judiciary, so these are the 4 important writs which you have to remember. But apart from the judiciary, many other mechanisms have been created in later years of the protection of the rights. It means other than this important right to constitutional remedies as a protector, as a defense element or a defense tool of each and every citizen, other than that also there have been many things which are protecting the rights of the citizens. You must have heard of the National Commission on Minorities, National Commissions on Women, National Commission of Scheduled Castes. So these are the small organizations which are working, and they are keeping a watch on that if anyone is violating or exploiting the rights of these citizens. In the same way, these institutions protect the rights of the women. So these institutions are specially made where they are protecting the rights of the women. Particularly, the other institution is protecting the rights of all the minorities, because these are the deprived social classes, and to protect them there are various institutions in place who will look after the minorities or Dalits. Besides the National Human Rights Commission, besides all these individual institutions, there is a big institution, that is National Human Rights Commission, has also been established by the law to protect fundamental rights and other kinds of rights. So this is the National Human Rights Commission, which keeps a close watch if there is any exploitation, or if there is any violation of the rights of the common people, maybe of any caste, color, minorities, majority, women, children. They keep a close watch on it. Okay, so there can also be a question if, when we are talking about the National Human Rights Commission, you must know its short form is NHRC. The real test, some of the information, this is a box, but you can read, there can be a question from this box also. The real test of rights given by any constitution is in their actual implementation. If we are talking about the rights given in the constitution, its real test is when it comes to implementation. Only writing the rights is not enough. That will say, okay, the constitution is very nice, it is giving these many fundamental rights, but when we talk and we think about practically, and we come to the ground practically, and we see how it is being implemented, then it comes to the order. The poor, illiterate, and the deprived section of the society must be able to exercise these rights. So when we are talking about the proper implementation, it means in the society we will have to see that every poor person, illiterate person, or deprived sections of the society, everyone should be having the access to these rights equally. Independent organizations like People Union of Civil Liberties or People Union for Democratic Rights have been working as a watchdog against the violation of the rights. Although in place there have been many organizations which are acting like a watchdog to protect the rights of the citizens. In this background, the government, so along with this, the government has also established in 1993, so you must remember this day, an institution, and the name of the institution is the National Human Rights Commission. So we are studying about National Human Rights Commission. It was established by the government in 1993. The National Human Rights Commission is composed of the formal, if we talk about the composition, which are the people who are the member of this commission. So Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the former judge of the Supreme Court, a former Chief Justice of the High Court, and two other members who have knowledge and practical experience in matters relating to human rights. So this is the composition. In the same way, you can read the entire paragraph. This is based on the National Human Rights Commission. I shall be giving a question based on this also. Okay, so with this we come to the end of the topic, that is fundamental rights. Must take the reading of your NCERT book. Till then, thank you and take care.